Shalom Aleichem. A good night of Shabbos, Parshas Chukas Bolok here in America, Tavshin Pei Gimel. It's here, the great Yom Tov of Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz. The Shabbos is Yud Beis, Sundays Yud Gimel. The Minig Chabad is not to say Tachnun, because we celebrate the Geula of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the redemption from his death sentence to freedom. And as we think about it, this happened in 1927, almost 100 years ago. So what's the connection to us? What do we take from it? What do we have from it? Here in America, in Canada, in Australia, in Eretz Yisrael, all over the world. Yes, the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh. He had self-sacrifice, literally. And not only did he himself have self-sacrifice, but he taught this to his Hasidim. My wife's grandfather, Reb Zalman Serebransky, would celebrate and not say Tachnun on Gimel Tammuz. Why? Because for him, Gimel Tammuz was the day when the Frierdiker Rebbe, his Rebbe, who he worked for in the 20s and 30s and 40s until the Rebbe became the Rebbe and he worked for him, his life was spared on Gimel Tammuz from death to prison, to hard labor. On Yud Beis Tammuz, the Rebbe got the notice, the Frierdiker Rebbe got the notice that he's completely free. So for them, it was a big Yom Tov. I recall of Habrengen in 770, about 25 years ago, I came into 770, Yud Beis Tammuz night, and who was sitting there at 2 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock in the morning? My father-in-law, Rabbi Chaim Serebransky, Rabbi Michal Teitelbaum, and Reb Meir Aftzon, I believe. And in talking to my father-in-law the next day, he said, yeah, for us it's real. Okay, so for them it's real, but what does that have to do with me? I'm a Yankee Doodle. I grew up here in America. I had food, I had comfort. You know, we Chassidim from America, we had the Rebbe for 42 years that we saw and heard him and enjoyed. Things were great and dandy, gewaldig. And the answer is, my friends, that Yud Beis Tammuz represents Mesiras Nefesh. It's the theme of self-sacrifice, Mesiras Nefesh. Just like Nachshon ben Aminadab, Shvi Shel Pesach, jumped into the water, and the Frierdiker Rebbe in a Sikha calls that day the Rosh Hashanah of Mesiras Nefesh. The individual in our generation, in the previous generation, and the individual who brought to the free world Mesiras Nefesh was Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Shneers and the Frierdiker Rebbe. And I say this because people, giants like Rabbi Eliezer Silver, who was the head of Agudas Rabbanim and the OU and everything else in the 40s and 50s and 60s, rolled the red carpet out for him. And when the Frierdiker Rebbe asked him to get visas for the Bochurim, the Lubavitcher Bochurim in Shanghai, he got them the visas. And when Rabbi Chaim Moiser was asked by the Frierdiker Rebbe to support his yeshivas, he helped him. Even though Rabbi Chaim Moiser was a Litvak, and Rabbi Eliezer Silver was a Litvisher, okay? But the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, we couldn't do what he did. What he did, we can learn, and we can do community work. It gewaltige Sachen. But to stay in Russia under Stalin, with the threat of death every moment, not every day, every moment. And you had to watch who's looking at you, and you couldn't speak. And the fear was so real that some of the Lubavitcher Chassidim, they came already to Eretz Yisrael in America. In the beginning, they would be careful who's looking at them. They wouldn't speak. I know this from family. Why? Because Stalin's fear is crept into their bone, into their DNA. But their true DNA was Torah, Hasidus, and the Rebbe. And that's Mesiras Nefesh. And that's a lesson for us. It's a lesson today for us. So you don't have your chocolate cake, and you don't have your comforts, and you don't have your air conditioning. A bissel Mesiras Nefesh. I tell the story, I heard this from a bocher. It was a younger man today. It was in Kfar Chabad, and it was a boiling day. It must have been 100 degrees outside. And the Kfar Chabad roof at that time, where the yeshiva was a flat roof, and the sun was boiling. And it was 3:30 in the afternoon. It was the second Seder when the Bocharim come back to study the second Seder of Gemara. And no one was there. And this Bocher comes in, and he sees the only one who's there is Reb Mendel Futterfass. And he goes over to Reb Mendel, and he says, Reb Mendel, no one's here because it's so hot. But if you go out to the porch, they had a porch over there, it's a little less hot because you don't have the heat from the sun baking on the roof. Maybe there was some shade outside. I don't know exactly how, but so the Mendel was wearing his kapote. So the Bocher said, maybe the Mendel take off your kapote and sit. He was sitting and learning, and sit on the porch. He said, what? I should do that? What am I showing the Bocherim? That when it gets hot, you don't have to come to learn. You have to change your clothing, and you have to go to a different location. What message am I giving? And he refused to go outside. And he stayed in the boiling base medrash. So, as we continue here in our journey during the summer, and it's a journey during the summer, it's brought down the Chassidus that Tammuz Chamra, Afila B'tkufas Tammuz Krirale, the donkey is cold vertebrated animal. Coldness represents apathy, kaltkeit. The sun's baking, and you're cold, this kalt. Mesiras Nefesh is the antithesis of kaltkeit. Mesiras Nefesh breaks kaltkeit. So Chevra, make this your mission. Be part of a Fabrengen the Shabbos. You have to go to a Fabrengen. A little more, a little less. With mashke, without mashke. But you participate in a Fabrengen. Half an hour, 15 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. Men with men, women with women, children with children. Children should be taken by their parents to the Fabrengen. And talk about Mesiras Nefesh and think about how you in your life can add some Mesiras Nefesh. And they should help. Kitzan Sheikh Ofer, Friedeke Rebbe, and all the tzaddikim, and our Rebbe, and we should take b'zeicha to Mashiach Tzidkeinu, and just as there was the Geula Kipshutai. And I remember that one Friday night when there was a kfiyas like this at Beis Tammuz, they didn't say, they said b'simcha in l'chodoidi. They said they substituted like you do on a Yom Tov if it comes out Friday night. You substitute with the word besimcha, and they said the word besimcha. And I understand that the Rebbe told Rabbi Talashevsky, who was the Baal Tefillah, something about that the night before in Yechidus. I'm not suggesting we do that. I'm not a Rebbe. I'm not a Rav in this case. Ask your own Rav. It's a hergish. It's a feeling. So even if you don't say besimcha, medav zayin besimcha, it's a great day. It's geula. Not just for us, it's not just a Lubavitcher Yom Tov, it's for every Yid. So l'chaim, b'simchov tu levav, u'b'zeicha to Mashiach Tzidkeinu b'karav mamash.